welcome back. Doug Dunbar here on the set of our 24-hour streaming service, CBSN, Dallas-Fort Worth. Speaking live right now this afternoon to Governor Greg Abbott. Governor, good to see you again. Week after week, we seem to talk, and things clearly have changed dramatically since all of our COVID-19 discussion. Governor, related to all of the protesting and the really bad side of it, those who have chosen to loot, to do damage to property, and in many cases people, my question for you is this. Monday this week, you had put out a statement basically saying that anybody caught coming from out of the state here to Texas to do damage, to loot, to steal, things of that nature would be handed over after being arrested to federal authorities. As I speak to you today, a couple of days later, any idea how many numbers we're talking about people who came from out of state to come into our state to cause trouble?
So you may recall that I was in Dallas yesterday, and that included being with the United States Attorney there. We are working with the 4 United States attorneys in the state of Texas to work on these federal prosecutions. And we learned at that time that there have been some people who have come from other states to come into the state of Texas to participate in these protests. But most likely, if they're coming from out of state, they're not here to protest the horrific death of George Floyd. They're here to cause damage. What I do know is this: as we had that meeting before the press conference yesterday in Dallas, the information that was provided from the police chief is that around half, maybe more than half, of the arrests that had been made as of that time were people from outside of Dallas. I didn't get a firm number on the total number of people from outside the state of Texas. However, we do know it is a fact there are people coming from outside of the state of Texas, and these people need to understand they will be subject to federal prosecution.
Governor, when we speak, I usually try to throw it out on social media because I would love to know what people out there want me to ask you. And the overriding question I got back today to ask you, which I will now, and that is, what in this moment right now, what tangible moves are you even considering as far as the state of Texas and our police forces all across this state moving forward, how we change, how we do things better, how we make sure that we don't end up in a similar situation like Minneapolis, where things were and are so terribly wrong with what we saw?
We must learn from what happened in Minneapolis. We need to make sure that police forces across the state of Texas understand that this practice is not an approved or appropriate practice. From the law enforcement officers that I have spoken to and learned from, they said that this is not a type of practice that they would use in the state of Texas. So for starting point, we need to make sure that that what happened to George Floyd is not going to happen to anybody in the state of Texas. But then that leads to the second point, and that is that as we go through this process of instilling calm in our cities, we need to also begin the process on the legislative side. And I began that process yesterday by talking with legislators yesterday to begin thinking about the types of laws that we need to see in the state of Texas to make sure that we do instill trust and confidence in the general public about the way law enforcement operates here in the state of Texas. And the good news is this, and that is Texas has a long and very positive, effective history of legislation that has been passed that is reform-oriented, especially focusing on fair criminal justice reforms.
Governor, we have seen, and I would hope that you've seen the video as well, more and more displays, especially in the last couple of days, of police officers, in some cases, kneeling when asked by the protesters, speaking with them. We're looking at video here, the chief of police in Fort Worth who knelt in prayer. We've seen a lot of this, praying with them, even hugging them in many instances between officers and protesters. Have you seen moments like this? And just as a person, what are your thoughts when you see this?
The way that the officers are engaging with the protesters, with the public, who are there for both purposeful as well as peaceful purposes, they find a way to calm things down a whole lot. I did see a picture of Texas Department of Public Safety officers in a circle hugging and praying with the protesters. And so this is the kind of thing that shows the protesters that law enforcement is not to be feared. Law enforcement is there to make sure that the protesters are safe in their protest. And that's exactly the way that it should be with the First Amendment, as opposed to some of these riots that we see that are accelerated typically by agitators who are coming from outside of the Dallas area or even outside of the Texas area.
Right. I'd be remiss if we didn't touch on COVID-19. That was our entire world just a couple of weeks ago when we last spoke, I believe. Here we are now with everything that we deal with now. Basically, we have seen social distancing go out the window, Governor. Houston yesterday, I think the last number I saw was the possibility of 60,000 people. What are you doing right now and thinking about proactively when it comes to a possible surge and spike, maybe even far sooner than everybody had even thought possible based on the events of the last week?
Well, we all are concerned about the potential spread of COVID-19. I did have the opportunity to speak with Dr. Birx today, and she said that it looks like there has been no effect caused by the Memorial Day gatherings. However, there is the potential for a spread of COVID-19 as a result of so many people gathering so closely together during these protests. And so it's something that we will be carefully monitoring through our testing. And so we want to make sure that we provide testing and make testing available for the people in these communities who may have been involved in these protests. That would be one way to determine the potential of the expansion that could be occurring, whether it be in Dallas or Houston or elsewhere.
Yeah, and Governor, before we let you go, can you just walk us through as briefly as you can? Today, we begin stepping back a little bit from restrictions, however you want to look at that. Restaurants of note can go to 50% occupancy right now, and I think your vernacular was any business that is limited in terms of occupancy, they can all go to 50% now. Can you detail that and what else is happening today?
Sure. Just real quick, pretty much everything is open, either 100% or 50%. Next week, restaurants get to go to 75%, bars go to 50%, amusement parks to 50%, stadiums of all type and theaters of all type go to 50%. In counties where they have 10 or fewer positive cases of COVID-19, they get to open up at 75%.
And we know the kids are out of school. They're happy about it. Obviously, they had this huge break. But moms and dads, we are all still wondering about the fall. Last time we spoke, we clearly arrived at a moment where, we're probably going to be midsummer, but have you taken any further steps as to a closer look at what return to school is going to look like this fall for Texas?
Sure. We are working on strategies to open school. We want schools to open on time, on schedule, with students in classrooms, with safe strategies in place to make sure we are containing the spread of COVID-19 and that schools will not be a place where it is spread. And we believe that we can come up with those safe practices and have them implemented. We do, however, want to ensure that local school districts will have the flexibility to structure their own schools and their own teaching settings. So we will provide ongoing online services if that is the pathway that some schools choose.
Okay. Governor Greg Abbott, we covered a lot of ground today, and we appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, Governor Greg Abbott speaking with us.